Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with part 3, Adam Weishaupt, of Adam Weishaupt, A Human Devil by Gerald B. Winrod. Adam Weishaupt. This man was born in southern Germany, February 6, 1748. As a comparatively young man, we find him occupying the chair of canon law in Ingolstadt University, hidden behind carefully arranged camouflage. He no doubt possessed more power than any other single individual of his day. Through his ability to mold human beings and bend them to his will, he was able to set forces in motion which have since wrecked whole nations and destroyed millions of lives. The impact of his evil genius is still being felt the world around, even down to the present hour. The plot has been carried on with such secrecy and diabolical cunning that the man's name is scarcely known beyond the circles of research where it has been dug out by students who have a special interest in occult matters and the study of subversive influences. It is, of course, to the advantage of those who are today unloading Weishaupt's schemes upon the world to keep his name and his principles away from the public view. It is remarkable how his followers have succeeded in keeping him out of sight. Weishaupt used men to carry out his ideas like a carpenter uses tools, being cognizant of the fact that he was building for the future, that he was molding generations unborn. He seemed to have no personal vanity that required immediate gratification. He was content to plant the seeds of destruction and allow them plenty of time to germinate. A brilliant writer on subversive movements has said, "It is an unvarying rule of secret societies that the real authors never show themselves." The French socialist freethinker Louis Blanc of the 19th century eulogizes Weishaupt as being one of the profoundest conspirators who has ever existed. On the other hand, we find Mackey, an American Mason, describing him as follows in the book Lexicon of Freemasonry. Weishaupt was a radical in politics and an infidel in religion, and he organized this association not more for the purpose of aggrandizing himself than of overturning Christianity and the institutions of society. It is pleasant to discover a Mason thus condemning this monster of iniquity, because other Masons, particularly in England, have praised him simply because he was able, in his day, to gain power of European Masonry, bend it to his will, and use it as an institution for carrying out his conspiracy against God, Christ, the Church, and civilization. Perhaps this is the time and place to say in capital letters that Freemasonry in America and Freemasonry in Europe are as different as day is different from night. This fact should be borne in mind as we proceed to discover how Weishaupt succeeded in perverting the order in continental Europe, thus using its lodges as underground breeding places of crime, anarchy, atheism, and violence. Parallel attitudes towards Christianity have been discovered in Weishaupt, Voltaire, and Frederick the Great. Each gave lip service to the cause of Christ when they found it convenient or expedient to do so, but never failed to improve an opportunity to contribute to its destruction. Weishaupt took personal credit for the vicious agencies which he started functioning. Hear him as he explains, "Would it cost me to read, study, think, write, cross out, and rewrite? The dream that was utmost in his mind was the constant thought of destroying the existing order of society. Being obsessed with this ambition, he looked about for weapons whereby the task could be performed in the shortest possible time. He soon saw what might be accomplished if he could bring the lodge rooms of Europe under his control." Abbé Birel, a French patriot and Catholic priest who lived contemporaneously with Weishaupt, wrote freely about the relation of the Illumined lodges to the French Revolution. Birel also made a penetrating examination into the life and personal affairs of the subject of our discussion. the man who invented his Illuminism only to convert it into the common sewer of everyday anti-Christian and anti-social error, is the way he speaks of Weishaupt. In his book, Anti-Christian Conspiracy, Burrell publishes this interesting statement about a young man who started out to become an Illuminatus, but reversed his attitude before he had gone far. The report shows how Weishaupt and his adepts also began by giving the prospective initiate small doses to be increased as the poison starts to take effect. I shall mention Tusa, as this man shows to what height atheism raged among the conspirators. He had undertaken the part of the corruption of morals under the mask of moderation. He succeeded by telling youth that nothing was to be feared from love, this passion only perfecting them, that between man and woman that was a sufficient claim on each other without matrimony, that children are not more beholden to their fathers from their birth than from the champagne they had drunk or the minuet they had been pleased to dance, that vengeance being incompatible with God, that the wicked had nothing to fear from the punishments of another world. Notwithstanding all this doctrine, the conspirators looked upon him as a timid adept because he owned a God in heaven and a soul in man, and to punish him they styled him the Capuchin philosopher. Happily for him, he took a better way of punishing them by abandoning their cause and recanting from his errors. To Burrell, we are also indebted for the information about a man, evidently a Jew, by the name Kolmer, who crossed Weishaupt's trail at the time when his Illuminism was yet in a plastic formidable state. Kolmer, a genius in matters pertaining to black art, was, from all indications, a Kabbalistic Jew from Egypt. Hearing of Weishaupt, a personal meeting was arranged. The result was, the satanic impulses which already existed was deepened in the soul of the man who was destined to wield a lasting influence for evil upon the lives of countless millions. 5 years intervened between the time that Kolmer called on Weishaupt and the day when the latter officially announced that he was ready to accept members into his new order. In other words, several years were spent in careful planning, thinking out methods, and making deliberate preparations to attack God and the governments of the world. At last, Weishaupt was ready to announce that we shall have a Masonic Lodge of our own, that we shall regard this as our nursery garden, that to some of these Masons, we shall not at once reveal that we have something more than the Masons have, that with every opportunity we shall cover ourselves with this Masonry. All those who are not suited to work shall remain in the Masonic Lodge and advance in that without knowing anything of the further system. Thus, he succeeded in creating a super Masonry with himself in the position of dominant power. He produced something which he led Masons to believe was of higher character, much older and more mysterious than anything they had. Before a great while he was able to put his key men into all the strategic positions of Masonry, which made it possible for him to sit back and pull wires from within the shadows. More will be said about this later, but let it be remembered that in everything Weishaupt said and did, he always animated with just one desire, namely to destroy, destroy, destroy. When he ruled Masonry, he did it with this one thought in mind, to use it as an instrument of destruction so as to accomplish his secret aims, the extermination of Christianity and the leveling of all governments to the ground. In his personal life, this man was a moral pervert. He lived in incestuous relationship with his sister-in-law. When it was discovered that she was to give birth to a child, he became seized with fear and planned an abortion. From documents which fell into the hands of the German government, it has been discovered that his organization possessed dreadful poisons and had no hesitation about using them when to do so might serve to silence an enemy or advance their cause in other ways. They had a powder which produced blindness, a prescription of a poison which had an insidiously slow but deadly effect. the formula for another poison which devoured everything, even sprayed into the face, etc. They also possessed a strange substance called Wasser, or Louise Water, because it was secretly given to Louise, the crown princess of Saxony, to further the romance with Tuceli and thereby detract from the reputation of the ruling dynasty. These secrets were all made known to the Bavarian government when it confiscated the lodge property of the organization on August 16, 1785. In their collection of poisons and weird chemical compounds, they had abortive remedies, and it was to these that Weishaupt resorted in his fright when he learned of the physical condition of his sister-in-law. He wished to make a suitable abortion, the formula of which was known to the organization. He wrote a distracted letter to a doctor who was a fellow member. "We have already tried several things to get rid of the child. She herself is willing to undertake everything, but Eurofon is too timid." Fate later delivered this letter into the hands of government officials with a key to the code in which it was written, whereby it was made understandable to the authorities. It contained a further reference to Celsius, who could certainly help me and had already promised to do so 3 years ago, etc. The last sentence shows that this monster of vice had been occupying himself with abortive remedies already for 3 years. The abortion failed and the child, a male, was born January 30th, 1784. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.